Ladies and gentlemen, if you are enjoying my videos, please click the like button. It is the only way the YouTube algorithm really notices me. I would be very grateful to you. Irina revels in the crisp air and untouched beauty of the lakeside, while her friends busy themselves with setting up camp. The serene landscape, with its crystal clear water reflecting the vibrant hues of the sunset and the rustling leaves of the surrounding forest, creates a picturesque haven far removed from the chaos of everyday life. Birds sing softly in the distance, and a gentle breeze caresses her face, making her feel at peace with the world. As she takes in the tranquil scene, the scent of pine and earth fills her lungs, grounding her in the moment. After a long journey, the group of friends gathers around the campfire, the warm glow illuminating their tired but content faces. The crackling fire provides a comforting backdrop to their relaxed chatter and laughter. Bottles of beer are passed around, the cold liquid a welcome relief after the day's exertions. The night is calm, the only sounds being the occasional hoot of an owl and the distant murmur of the lake. As the stars begin to twinkle above, the friends share stories and jokes, feeling a deep sense of camaraderie and contentment. The firelight casts flickering shadows on the surrounding trees, adding an air of mystery to the peaceful evening, hinting at the unknown secrets the forest might hold. As the evening progresses, the light-hearted conversation gradually shifts to more chilling topics. Max, ever the storyteller, leans forward, his face eerily lit by the flickering flames, and begins to weave a tale meant to send shivers down his friends' spines. "Did I ever tell you about the mysterious events that have happened in these very woods?" he starts, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The group falls silent, their eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Max's tone grows more somber as he continues. "This forest holds secrets, dark and ancient, that few dare to uncover. Strange sounds have been heard, shadows moving just beyond the firelight, and those who venture too far often don't return. The once warm and inviting night takes on a more sinister quality, the surrounding darkness feeling a bit more oppressive as Max's story unfolds." Max's eyes gleam with a macabre delight as he begins his tale. There was a couple, recently married, who decided to spend their honeymoon far from the prying eyes of the city, in a secluded cabin deep within these woods. He pauses, letting the tension build. Their names were Constantine and Marina, and they were utterly in love, eager to begin their new life together in perfect solitude. For the first few days, everything was blissful. They hiked, swam in the lake, and enjoyed the peaceful isolation. Max's voice grows darker. But one night, just as they were drifting off to sleep, they were awakened by strange, distant cries echoing through the trees. At first they thought it might be an animal, but the sounds grew louder, more human and filled with agony. Against their better judgment, they decided to investigate. The friends huddle closer to the fire, their imaginations running wild. Max lowers his voice to a haunting whisper. They followed the cries deeper into the forest, but as they got closer, the sounds abruptly stopped. They were enveloped by an unnerving silence, the kind that makes your skin crawl. And then, without warning, the forest erupted in chaos. Strange shadows darted among the trees, and the couple felt an overwhelming sense of being watched. Panicking, they tried to find their way back to the cabin, but it was as if the forest itself had turned against them. Max's face is a mask of grim satisfaction as he delivers the final blow. They were never seen again. Some say their spirits still wander these woods, forever searching for a way out, their cries of terror mingling with the night wind. The silence that follows is thick with dread, each friend lost in their own thoughts, glancing nervously at the dark, foreboding forest around them. Max's story creates a sinister atmosphere as he describes the chilling events that unfold. "It was Marina who first awoke," Max begins, his voice low and suspenseful, drawing his friends closer to the fire. The air was thick and still, but her sleep was broken by distant, eerie cries. They were faint at first, barely audible through the thick walls of the cabin, but there was something disturbingly human about them. Marina's heart pounded in her chest as she strained to hear more, the cries growing louder and more pained. Max leans forward, the fire casting dancing shadows on his face, heightening the sense of dread. She shook Constantine awake, her voice trembling. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. He listened intently, the cries now unmistakable and filled with agony. A chill ran down his spine as he realized these were not animal sounds. Someone or something was out there. The group huddles closer, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames, casting an otherworldly glow. As the cries continued, Constantine and Marina felt an oppressive sense of dread. The forest, once a place of beauty and solitude, now seemed to close in around them. Shadows danced menacingly among the trees, and every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, seemed to echo with sinister intent. They knew they were not alone, and an invisible threat loomed in the darkness. Max's voice drops to a whisper, forcing his friends to lean in even closer. The couple clung to each other, their breath shallow and quick. The cries were now unbearably close, as if coming from just beyond the tree line. They felt eyes upon them, watching, waiting. The sense of impending doom was palpable, tightening like a noose around their necks. The night was alive with terror, and the friends around the campfire could almost feel it too, as if the very forest around them was holding its breath, ready to unleash its horrors. The tension is thick, the crackling fire the only sound breaking the heavy silence. Max's tale has done its job, casting a dark, ominous shadow over the once peaceful evening, leaving everyone glancing nervously into the encroaching darkness of the forest. The newlyweds, Kostya and Marina, are jolted from their uneasy slumber by a blood-curdling scream that pierces the stillness of the forest night. It starts as a distant, eerie wail, but quickly grows louder, more desperate, and disturbingly close. The sound chills them to the bone, each scream resonating with a primal fear. Kostya's heart races as he feels Marina clutch his arm, her eyes wide with terror. "We have to get out of here," he whispers urgently, his voice shaking. They scramble out of their tent, the night air biting and thick with dread. In their panic, they stumble towards their car, the screams still echoing in their ears, feeling as if the forest itself is alive with unseen horrors. Every shadow seems to move, every rustle a threat. They speed down the narrow, winding forest road, the car's headlights slicing through the darkness, but offering little comfort. The screams have stopped, but the silence is even more terrifying, filled with the possibility of what might come next. As they round a sharp bend, something massive and dark looms in front of them. Kostya swerves, but it's too late. There's a sickening thud as they hit something, and the car careens off the road, tumbling into a deep ravine. The car comes to a jarring halt, wedged awkwardly in the underbrush. Kostya's head is spinning, his heart pounding in his chest. Marina is sobbing quietly beside him, her fear palpable. "Are you okay?" he asks, his voice strained. She nods, but they both know they are far from safe. Kostya steps out of the car, the night pressing in on him from all sides. He can feel the forest watching. The headlights cast eerie shadows on the trees as he inspects the front of the car. His breath catches in his throat when he sees it, a large, bloody tuft of fur caught on the bumper, dripping with fresh blood. The realization that they have hit something alive and close, sends a fresh wave of terror through him. He backs away, his mind racing with horrifying possibilities. The forest seems to close in tighter around them, every shadow a potential threat. The air is thick with fear, and Kostya knows they can't stay here. "We need to find help," he says, trying to keep his voice steady for Marina's sake, but the quiver betrays his own fear. They are trapped, vulnerable, and whatever is out there in the darkness is undoubtedly still watching. Through the oppressive darkness, Kostya and Marina spot a distant glimmer of light. It's faint, barely perceptible through the dense forest, but it's their only hope. "Look," Marina whispers, pointing towards the flickering glow. Kostya nods, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within him. They both know they can't stay by the wrecked car, so despite their overwhelming fear, they decide to head towards the light. Holding each other close, they begin the long, arduous trek through the forest. The trees, tall and foreboding, seem to close in around them, their branches like skeletal hands reaching out in the darkness. Every step is accompanied by the crunch of leaves and twigs underfoot, the sounds amplified in the silence of the night. Their breath is visible in the cold air, coming in short, frightened gasps. The light ahead wavers, but remains their beacon of hope, guiding them through the oppressive gloom. As they draw nearer to the source of the light, the forest seems to come alive with ominous sounds. The eerie silence is shattered by a low, guttural growl that makes the hair on the back of their necks stand on end. Kostya and Marina freeze, their eyes wide with terror. The growl is followed by the sound of snapping branches and heavy footsteps, as if something massive is moving towards them with relentless determination. "Run," Kostya shouts, grabbing Marina's hand and pulling her along. They sprint through the underbrush, the light bobbing closer but never seeming to get any nearer. The terrifying howls and the sound of something crashing through the forest spur them on, their fear lending them speed. The branches claw at their clothes and skin, the forest itself seeming to conspire against their escape. Marina stumbles, but Kostya pulls her up, their desperation fueling their flight. The noises behind them grow louder, the sense of impending doom pressing down on them. They can almost feel the hot breath of whatever is chasing them on their necks, the snarls and growls echoing in their ears. Just when they think they can't run any further, they break through the tree line into a small clearing. There, bathed in the glow of an old, flickering lantern, stands a modest cabin. Its presence is both a relief and a new source of dread. They don't know who or what might be inside, but they have no choice. As they race towards the cabin, the sounds of pursuit grow even louder, the monstrous presence almost upon them. With the last of their strength, they reach the porch and pound on the door, their voices hoarse from screaming for help. "Please, let us in," Kostya cries out, his eyes darting towards the forest where the shadows are moving closer. The door creaks open, and an elderly woman appears, her eyes widening in shock at the sight of the terrified couple. She quickly ushers them inside, slamming the door shut just as the beast reaches the edge of the clearing. Inside the cabin, Kostya and Marina collapse onto the floor, their hearts pounding in their chests. The woman locks the door, her face pale but determined. "You did well to run," she says, her voice trembling slightly. "But you must be quiet now. It's not safe here after dark." The cabin, though small and dimly lit, feels like a sanctuary, but the fear lingers, for they know that the horrors of the night are far from over. As they sprint through the dense forest, the sounds of pursuit growing ever closer, Marina stumbles over a gnarled root, falling hard to the ground. Kostya, adrenaline surging through his veins, quickly pulls her to her feet. "We have to keep moving," he urges, but the moment they start running again, they see it an enormous creature with blazing eyes barreling towards them through the underbrush. The monster is unlike anything they could have imagined, its eyes glowing with a malevolent fire, its massive form moving with terrifying speed. Kostya and Marina's hearts pound as they push themselves to their limits, the fear of the beast driving them forward. They can hear its breath, hot and ragged, feel the ground shaking beneath its weight. Just as it seems the creature will overtake them, they burst from the forest and onto the porch of a small, dimly lit house. Desperation fuels their frantic pounding on the door. "Help! Please let us in," Kostya shouts, his voice cracking with terror. The beast is almost upon them, its growls reverberating through the night air. Just as the creature's glowing eyes close in, the door swings open, and they are pulled inside by a pair of strong hands. The door slams shut, and a series of heavy locks click into place. Inside the house, Kostya and Marina collapse onto the wooden floor, gasping for breath. The room is dimly lit by the flickering flames of a fireplace, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Their savior, a young woman with dark hair and a calm demeanor, helps them to their feet. "Come, sit by the fire," she says, her voice soothing and gentle. "You're safe now." They make their way to the hearth. The warmth of the fire a stark contrast to the cold fear that still grips them. "Thank you," Kostya manages to say, his voice shaking. "There was something ... something in the woods. It was chasing us." The young woman, who introduces herself as Sofia, listens attentively as they recount their harrowing ordeal, the terrifying encounter with the monstrous creature, the frantic flight through the forest, and the desperate dash to her door. "We crashed our car trying to escape," Marina adds, her voice barely above a whisper. "We didn't know where else to go." Sofia nods understandingly, her eyes filled with concern. "You've been through a lot," she says softly. "I wish I could help more, but there's no phone here. This place is quite isolated. But don't worry, you can stay here tonight. The forest is dangerous after dark." She offers them tea, her calm presence gradually easing their tension. As they sit by the fire, sipping the warm, comforting drink, Sofia tends to their minor injuries and reassures them with her quiet strength. Despite the fear that still lingers, the cozy interior of the house and Sofia's hospitality begin to make them feel a semblance of safety. But even as the flames crackle in the hearth and the warmth seeps into their bones, the memory of the glowing eyes in the forest stays with them, a chilling reminder that the night is far from over. As the night wears on, Kostya and Marina begin to notice peculiarities in Sofia's behavior. Despite living deep in the woods, far from modern conveniences, she seems strangely at ease, as if accustomed to a life of rustic solitude. She explains that she shares the house with her husband, Roman, who is currently out hunting in the forest. Offering them tea, she excuses herself and retreats to the bedroom, leaving the couple alone in the cozy living room. In the dead of night, Kostya and Marina are jolted awake by a blood-curdling scream echoing from the direction of Sofia's bedroom. Heart pounding, Kostya rushes to investigate, finding the room eerily empty. The window is wide open, a gentle breeze stirring the curtains, and on the floor lies a torn silk nightgown, its delicate fabric stained with drops of blood. A sense of dread washes over Kostya as he peers out into the darkness beyond the window. Somewhere in the depths of the forest, a haunting cry pierces the night, a sound that chills him to the core. It's then that Kostya realizes the horrifying truth: Sofia has been snatched from the safety of her own home by the same malevolent force that pursued them through the woods. The realization sends a shiver down his spine, filling him with a deep sense of foreboding. With each passing moment, the oppressive weight of fear grows heavier, suffusing the once welcoming atmosphere of the house with an insidious sense of dread. As they stand in the dimly lit room, surrounded by the encroaching shadows, Kostya and Marina know that they are not alone, that something sinister lurks in the darkness, waiting to strike again. As the realization dawns upon them that unknown monsters roam the surrounding woods, Kostya and Marina come to a grim decision: it's safer to remain within the confines of the house. With a sense of urgency gnawing at their senses, they waste no time in fortifying their makeshift sanctuary against the lurking terrors outside. With trembling hands, they begin to barricade the doors and windows, their movements frantic yet methodical as they stack heavy furniture and wooden beams in a desperate attempt to ward off the encroaching threat. Every creak of the floorboards and rustle of the curtains sends a shiver down their spines, each sound a sinister reminder of the malevolent presence lurking just beyond the safety of their makeshift stronghold. In the dim light of flickering candles, their shadows dance ominously against the walls, casting eerie silhouettes that seem to writhe and twist with a life of their own. Outside, the forest looms dark and foreboding, its tangled canopy concealing unseen horrors that skulk in the depths of the night. With each passing moment, the tension mounts, the air thick with a palpable sense of dread that hangs heavy upon their shoulders. They huddle together in the flickering candlelight, their hearts pounding in unison, acutely aware of the peril that lurks just beyond the fragile barrier separating them from the unknown horrors of the forest. But even as they cling to the fragile illusion of safety within the confines of the house, a sense of unease gnaws at the edges of their minds, whispering of the insidious threat that lurks just outside their barricaded doors, a threat that refuses to be ignored, no matter how desperately they cling to the illusion of security. The newlyweds spare no effort in fortifying their newfound refuge. Kostya takes charge, barricading the bedroom door with a heavy dresser and wedging it shut, while he secures the large window in the living room with a wardrobe. Together with Marina, they resolve to weather the nightmarish ordeal within the unfamiliar confines of the house, reinforcing every entrance and exit in a desperate bid for survival. With a newfound sense of determination, Kostya ventures into the depths of the house, scouring the dark recesses of the pantry until his trembling hands close around the cold metal of a shotgun and a stash of ammunition. Armed with this newfound confidence, the couple listens in tense silence to the crackling of the fire in the hearth, their ears straining for any sign of the approaching dawn. But as the night wears on, their fragile sanctuary is suddenly besieged by a malevolent force, their tranquil refuge transformed into a battleground of primal terror. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, Kostya and Marina spring into action, frantically bracing the wardrobe against the window as the monstrous entity threatens to breach their defenses. Despite their valiant efforts, The creature's relentless onslaught proves too much to bear, and with a sickening crash, it smashes through the flimsy barrier, its malevolent presence filling the room with a suffocating sense of dread. With nowhere left to run, Kostya and Marina stand their ground, their trembling hands clutching the shotgun tightly as they prepare to face the horrors that lurk in the darkness beyond. Realizing they cannot withstand the onslaught any longer, Kostya spots a hatch leading to the cellar and urges Marina to seek refuge below. Descending into the darkness, they huddle together, their ears assaulted by the cacophony of splintering furniture and the guttural growls of the monsters prowling above. Despite the oppressive atmosphere, Kostya tries to reassure Marina, his voice strained yet determined as he insists they are safe in the cellar's confines. After what feels like an eternity of tense silence, the hatch creaks open, and Roman, Sophia's husband, peers cautiously into the cellar. With a mixture of relief and disbelief, Kostya and Marina accept Roman's outstretched hand as he helps them clamber out of the cellar, before firmly sealing the hatch behind them, his weight pressing down on it with an unsettling finality. Standing before them, Roman and Sophia cut a bizarre figure, clad only in their bare skin, their smiles unnervingly serene despite the chaos unfolding around them. In this moment of surreal relief, Kostya and Marina cannot shake the gnawing sense of unease that settles over them like a suffocating shroud. For beneath the facade of hospitality and warmth lies an insidious truth, one that threatens to plunge them even deeper into the heart of darkness that lurks within the forest's depths. Suddenly, the warm smiles of Roman and Sophia contorted into bestial snarls, their bodies engulfed in long black fur. Kostya and Marina, stunned and panicked, found themselves immobilized, unable to flee or even scream as the werewolf couple lunged at them. In the eerie glow of the moon, the once familiar faces of their hosts twisted into grotesque visages of primal terror. The moonlight cast haunting shadows across their fur-covered forms as they closed in on their helpless prey. Kostya and Marina's hearts raced with dread, realizing the horrifying truth of the creatures before them. Trapped in the grip of fear, they could only watch in horror as the werewolves unleashed their primal instincts, driven by an insatiable hunger for flesh. The air was thick with the scent of bloodlust as the night echoed with the chilling howls of the beasts, sealing the fate of the doomed couple in the clutches of the moonlit forest. In a matter of seconds, the werewolf couple, Roman and Sophia, tore apart the unsuspecting pair. The night air was pierced with guttural snarls and the sickening sounds of flesh being rent asunder. Kostya and Marina's desperate pleas for mercy were drowned out by the primal fury of their assailants. As the grisly deed reached its macabre conclusion, the two werewolves raised their bloodied muzzles to the sky. Their haunting howls reverberated through the darkness, sending shivers down the spines of any who dared to listen. The moon, casting its ghostly light upon the scene, seemed to glow brighter, as if bearing witness to the horrors below. Silence descended upon the forest, broken only by the rustle of leaves in the chilling breeze. The once serene landscape was now tainted by the lingering scent of death, a grim reminder of the carnage that had unfolded beneath the moon's watchful gaze. And as the night wore on, the secrets of the woodland remained shrouded in darkness, forever concealing the true horrors that lurked within. As the eerie tale unfolded, Irina and Olga found themselves engrossed in a discussion about mermaids. It all began with Maxim's spine-chilling narrative, which sent shivers down Irina's spine. Maxim, with a mischievous glint in his eye, added layers of intrigue to his story, leaving his friends on the edge of their seats. With hearts still racing from the tale, the conversation naturally drifted towards the topic of mermaids, their nature, and the legends that surrounded them. Olga, her voice tinged with a hint of trepidation, shattered the romanticized image of mermaids as beautiful maidens with tails, revealing instead the darker truth. According to her, mermaids were not enchanting creatures of the deep, but soulless beings, driven by an insatiable hunger for living flesh. As the friends delved deeper into the lore surrounding mermaids, the once enchanting notion of these mythical beings began to take on a sinister hue. Their discussion painted a picture of creatures lurking in the shadows, their beauty a facade concealing their insidious intentions. And as the night pressed on, the eerie whispers of the forest seemed to echo their fears, reminding them that some legends were best left undisturbed in the depths of the unknown. Olga began weaving a tale about three young men who encountered a real mermaid. With a solemn tone, she emphasized that true mermaids were far from the whimsical depictions seen in cartoons. Instead, they were depicted as drowned maidens or fallen angels, driven by an insatiable craving for human flesh. As Olga's narrative unfolded, the listeners found themselves drawn into a world where the boundary between myth and reality blurred. The story painted a haunting picture of the ocean's depths, where mermaids lurked in the shadows, their beauty a deceptive facade masking their sinister intentions. The three young men, unsuspecting and lured by the allure of the sea, stumbled upon a secluded cove where the mermaid lay in wait. Her siren song echoed through the air, beckoning them closer, while her eyes gleamed with a hunger that sent chills down their spines. As the story unfolded, each detail seemed to heighten the tension, leaving the listeners on the edge of their seats. Olga's words painted a vivid portrait of a terrifying encounter with a creature of the deep, one that would forever haunt the dreams of those who dared to listen. Denis and Andrei had concocted a stag party for their friend Slavik, despite his protests. They orchestrated his abduction, dragging him into an off-road vehicle and tying him up. The mastermind behind this abduction was Kostya, Slavik's younger brother, who helped lure him into a deserted street. Following the successful abduction, Slavik initially protested vehemently, but eventually resigned himself to the situation and requested a beer. The friends celebrated their victory and continued their journey, heading towards a mysterious location for the stag party. The atmosphere inside the vehicle was tense, with Slavik's initial anger gradually giving way to resignation. As they drove deeper into the night, the eerie silence outside seemed to mirror the uncertainty and apprehension growing within the captive's mind. Each passing mile only heightened the sense of foreboding as they ventured further into the unknown. After hours of driving along the deserted highway, Denis spotted a narrow turnoff that led to a quaint cafe inn. As they veered off the main road, a sense of anticipation filled the air, mingled with an underlying unease that lingered like a shadow. The atmosphere inside the vehicle was charged with a mix of excitement and trepidation as they approached their destination. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the path ahead, as if piercing a veil of uncertainty that cloaked the isolated road. With each passing mile, the anticipation grew, fueled by the prospect of continuing their celebration at the secluded venue. Yet, beneath the facade of joviality, an unspoken tension simmered, hinting at the unsettling events yet to unfold. As they arrived at the secluded spot, the glow of the inn's lights cast eerie shadows against the surrounding trees, adding to the ominous ambience of the night. Despite the picturesque facade of the place, an inexplicable sense of foreboding hung in the air, like a warning whispered by the rustling leaves. With a mixture of excitement and apprehension, the group stepped out of the vehicle, their footsteps echoing in the stillness of the night. Little did they know that their arrival marked the beginning of a descent into darkness, where the line between celebration and terror would blur beyond recognition. As the friends pulled into the parking lot of the Traveler's Rest gas station, a wave of nostalgia washed over Slava. The station, with its combination of a convenience store, hotel, and cafe bar, stood as a beacon of familiarity amidst the darkness of the night. Its neon sign flickered softly, casting an ethereal glow that seemed to beckon weary travelers from afar. For Slava, this place held a special significance, intertwined with memories of his youth and cherished moments spent in its midst. The sight of the familiar surroundings stirred emotions long dormant, evoking a sense of warmth and comfort that he hadn't felt in years. As he stepped out of the car, the scent of gasoline mingled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee from the cafe, enveloping him in a sensory embrace that transported him back to simpler times. The flickering lights of the gas pumps cast dancing shadows against the worn pavement, adding to the surreal atmosphere of the deserted station. Despite the eerie stillness of the night, there was a palpable sense of camaraderie among the group, united by their shared journey and the promise of adventure that lay ahead. Little did they know, however, that their arrival at the Traveler's Rest marked the beginning of a harrowing ordeal that would test their bonds of friendship like never before. Kostya's excitement turned to disappointment as he surveyed the scene before him. Instead of the rugged roadside tavern with bikers, truckers, and scantily clad waitresses he had envisioned, all he saw was the mundane reality of the traveler's rest. His expectations had been set high by his brother's vivid descriptions of a place teeming with life and adventure, but what greeted him was far from the thrilling spectacle he had anticipated. The gas station's flickering lights cast a dull glow over the deserted parking lot, revealing the worn facade of the convenience store and the dimly lit interior of the cafe bar. The atmosphere was devoid of the raucous energy he had anticipated, replaced instead by an eerie stillness that hung heavy in the air. As Kostya stepped out of the car, a sense of disillusionment washed over him, mingling with the scent of gasoline and stale coffee that permeated the night air. Gone were his dreams of excitement and adventure, replaced by the stark reality of their surroundings. Despite his disappointment, Kostya knew there was no turning back now. With a resigned sigh, he followed his friends into the dimly lit interior of the gas station, steeling himself for whatever horrors awaited them in the night. Little did he know, the true terrors lay not in the darkness of the unknown, but in the depths of his own soul. Traveler's Rest was more than just a roadside diner. It was a sanctuary of wild abandon where Slava and his friends had whiled away countless hours in their youth. For Slava, it held memories of youthful indiscretions and reckless escapades, where tales of lost innocence mingled with the heady scent of absinthe and the raucous laughter of carefree days gone by. As they approached the familiar facade of the diner, Slava's mind flooded with recollections of past adventures of nights spent losing himself in the depths of intoxication and days filled with laughter and camaraderie. Here, amidst the flickering neon lights and the haze of cigarette smoke, he had experienced the heady rush of first love and the bittersweet taste of rebellion. Traveler's Rest was not just a place, it was a living, breathing testament to their youth, a shrine to their youthful exuberance and unabashed defiance of convention. It was a place where inhibitions were shed like old skin, and the only rule was to live fast and die young. But as they stepped inside, the air heavy with the scent of nostalgia and anticipation, Slava couldn't help but feel a pang of apprehension. Would the memories they cherished still hold true, or had time tainted the magic of their youth? Only time would tell as they ventured deeper into the heart of their past, where shadows of the past lurked in every corner, waiting to be rediscovered. Denis and Andrei had meticulously planned Slava's stag party, striking a deal with the owner of the diner to open up the bar for their exclusive celebration. They negotiated terms, ensuring the venue would be spruced up to their liking, with the promise of an electrifying performance by the dancers. The arrangement was sealed with a transaction, exchanging funds for access to the establishment and its amenities. The owner, eager to accommodate their desires, spared no expense in preparing the venue for the night's festivities. Tables were adorned with flickering candles, casting eerie shadows across the dimly lit space, while the air buzzed with anticipation. As the clock ticked closer to the appointed hour, Denis and Andrei surveyed their handiwork with satisfaction, confident that they had created the perfect setting for Slava's last hurrah as a single man. Little did they know that their carefully laid plans would soon take a sinister turn, plunging them into a nightmarish descent into darkness. Initially, the owner of the diner, an elderly man with a weathered face, failed to recognize the group of friends as they approached. However, as they reminded him of their arrangement, his memory was jogged, and a warm smile crept onto his lips. Welcoming them inside, he confirmed that the bar would indeed be at their disposal for the evening's festivities. With a twinkle in his eye, the old man assured them that the dancers were ready to take the stage, promising a night to remember. With the agreement reaffirmed, he graciously accepted the payment offered by Denis and Andrei, tucking it away with a knowing nod. As the friends began to make themselves comfortable, the owner set about making final preparations for the upcoming event. The rhythmic clinking of glasses and the faint strains of music floated through the air as anticipation mounted, hinting at the excitement that lay ahead. Yet little did they realize that beneath the veneer of hospitality lurked something far more sinister, waiting to unleash its terror upon the unsuspecting revelers. The friends decided to pitch their camp by the river, eager to relive the nostalgia of days gone by. As they hammered stakes into the ground and unfurled their tents, laughter and chatter filled the air, mingling with the sounds of nature. Amidst their preparations, the old man from the roadside store approached them, his face etched with concern. He cautioned them against wandering along the riverbank at night, especially after indulging in alcohol. His voice carried a note of urgency, as if he were trying to convey a hidden truth, but the young adventurers brushed off his words with careless disregard. Dismissively waving off the old man's warning, they assured him they would be fine and thanked him for his concern before returning to their campsite. Little did they know that his words held more weight than they could have imagined, for lurking in the darkness beyond the flickering campfire lay a danger far more ominous than they could ever anticipate. The friends reveled in the beauty of nature, immersing themselves in the serene ambience of the riverside. They took refreshing dips in the cool waters, letting the gentle current wash away the heat of the day. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the landscape, they gathered around the crackling campfire, skewering juicy sausages on sticks to roast over the flames. The laughter of friends echoed through the trees as they exchanged stories and jokes, the warmth of camaraderie mingling with the flickering firelight. The scent of charred wood and sizzling meat filled the air, tantalizing their senses and whetting their appetites. With each sip of ice-cold beer drawn from the river's depths, they toasted to friendship and adventure, their spirits soaring with the promise of the night ahead. What began as a simple camping trip had transformed into an evening of joyous celebration, a fleeting moment of bliss amidst the untamed beauty of the wilderness. Little did they know that lurking in the shadows beyond their campfire, unseen and unheard, awaited a darkness eager to shatter their merriment and plunge them into a nightmare they would never forget. As night fell, the friends made their way to the Travelers' Tavern, a vibrant oasis amidst the darkness of the surrounding woods. The bar greeted them with a riot of neon lights, casting colorful reflections on the polished wooden floors. The air pulsed with the rhythmic beat of music, drawing them into the heart of the lively establishment. Inside, they found themselves surrounded by an eclectic mix of patrons, their laughter and chatter blending seamlessly with the melodic strains of the jukebox. But it was the sight of the dancers that truly captivated their attention. Graceful and alluring, the dancers moved with fluidity and skill, their lithe forms weaving intricate patterns on the small stage. One dancer, in particular, caught the eye of Kostya. She was a vision in blonde curls and cowboy attire, her movements both sensual and captivating. Mesmerized by her performance, Kostya found himself drawn to her like a moth to a flame, his gaze following her every step with an intensity bordering on obsession. As the night wore on, the atmosphere grew more charged, fueled by the heady mix of music, alcohol, and desire. Little did they know that amidst the pulsating energy of the bar, a darker force lurked in the shadows, waiting to ensnare them in its sinister embrace. After the electrifying party at the Travelers' Tavern, the friends made their way back to their campsite, their footsteps echoing softly in the stillness of the night. As they approached the clearing where they had set up their tents, they were met with a surreal sight. The embers of their campfire still glowed faintly, casting an eerie glow on the surrounding trees. But what truly caught their attention were the figures dancing around the dying flames. There, in the flickering light, stood a group of ethereal figures, their forms illuminated by the dying firelight. Half naked and adorned with long flowing hair, these mysterious women moved with a hypnotic grace, their laughter mingling with the crackle of the dying flames. Transfixed by the mesmerizing sight before them, the friends stood rooted to the spot, unable to tear their gaze away from the enchanting dancers. It was as if they had stumbled upon a scene from a fairy tale, where otherworldly beings danced under the moonlit sky. But as the realization of their presence sank in, a creeping sense of unease began to gnaw at the edges of their minds. Who were these enigmatic dancers, and what were they doing in their campsite in the dead of night? With each passing moment, the line between reality and the surreal blurred, plunging the friends into a realm of uncertainty and fear. To the friends' surprise, the mysterious women dancing by their campfire were not part of any planned surprise. They introduced themselves as weary travelers who had stumbled upon the campsite and decided to strike up a conversation with the guys. As introductions were made and stories exchanged, the initial tension melted away, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and curiosity. Each of the women found herself drawn to one of the friends, and soon, lively conversations and laughter filled the air, weaving a tapestry of connection and companionship beneath the star-strewn sky. Despite the late hour and the eerie surroundings, the atmosphere was anything but tense. Instead, it was infused with an unexpected warmth and comfort, as if the chance encounter with the strangers had brought a touch of magic to their night in the wilderness. As the night wore on, the campfire crackled and flickered, casting dancing shadows upon the faces of newfound friends. In that fleeting moment, beneath the watchful gaze of the moon, the boundaries between strangers blurred and a bond formed, binding them together in an unforgettable moment of shared laughter and camaraderie. As the night unfolded, the three friends found themselves captivated by the company of the three mysterious women they had encountered by the campfire. Laughter mingled with flirtatious banter as conversations flowed freely, weaving a tapestry of connection and intrigue under the moonlit sky. Christina and Dennis, drawn to each other like moths to a flame, stole away to a secluded spot not far from the fire's glow, where whispered confessions and stolen kisses danced on the night breeze, shrouded in secrecy and the promise of new beginnings. Meanwhile, Lisa, her adventurous spirit aflame, persuaded Andrei to join her for a moonlit swim in the nearby river. Under the silver light of the moon, they shed their inhibitions along with their clothes, plunging into the cool embrace of the water, where laughter and splashes mingled in a symphony of freedom and exhilaration. Amidst the crackling of the campfire and the rustle of leaves in the night breeze, new connections blossomed, each encounter infused with the thrill of the unknown and the intoxicating allure of possibility. And in that fleeting moment, beneath the stars, the boundaries of reality blurred, giving way to a world where anything seemed possible, even amidst the eerie shadows of the surrounding forest. As the night wore on, and the lively chatter of his friends and their newfound companions filled the air, Slava couldn't shake off a lingering sense of displacement. Amidst the spirited exchanges and burgeoning romances, he found himself adrift, a silent observer in a sea of laughter and whispered confidences. With only 3 women present, and each of his friends engrossed in their own budding connections, Slava felt like a fifth wheel, an awkward appendage to the intimate gatherings unfolding around the campfire. Despite the jovial atmosphere, an unsettling unease gnawed at his insides, casting a shadow over the night's festivities. Determined to escape the palpable awkwardness that hung in the air like a heavy mist, Slava quietly excused himself, feigning fatigue as he retreated to the solitude of his tent. Nestled within the confines of his sleeping bag, he closed his eyes, seeking solace in the embrace of sleep, hoping to find respite from the disquieting dissonance that plagued his thoughts. Outside, the campfire crackled softly, casting flickering shadows that danced across the fabric of his tent, a silent reminder of the camaraderie and connection he longed to reclaim. But within the cocoon of his makeshift sanctuary, Slava drifted into a fitful slumber, enveloped by a sense of isolation that lingered like a ghost in the night. Slava stirred from his slumber, the urgent call of nature pulling him from the depths of sleep. As he emerged from his tent, the crackling blaze of the campfire caught his eye, its flames dancing wildly in the night. But what he saw next froze the blood in his veins and sent a shiver down his spine. There, bathed in the eerie glow of the firelight, Slava beheld a scene straight from the depths of his worst nightmares. His brother Kostya, once vibrant and full of life, now lay helpless in the clutches of a serpentine creature, its grotesque form twisted and contorted as it feasted upon his flesh with ravenous hunger. Slava's heart pounded in his chest as he struggled to make sense of the surreal tableau unfolding before him. With a mounting sense of dread, he realized that Kostya was not the only victim. Across the clearing, 2 more of the nightmarish creatures lurked in the shadows, their slitted eyes gleaming with predatory malice as they closed in on Dennis and Andrei, their hapless prey. A wave of terror washed over Slava as he stood frozen in place, his mind reeling with disbelief and horror. The air was thick with the stench of blood and decay, mingling with the acrid scent of burning wood as the campfire crackled ominously, casting long, twisting shadows that danced like specters in the night. In that moment, Slava knew that they were not alone in the darkness. Something malevolent lurked in the depths of the forest, something ancient and primal, hungry for the taste of human flesh. With a sinking heart, he realized that their peaceful retreat had become a waking nightmare, and they were trapped in its merciless grip. Shaken to the core, Slava desperately tried to convince himself that it was all just a nightmare, a figment of his imagination spun from the fabric of fear. But the sickening sounds of flesh being torn and devoured were all too real, echoing through the stillness of the night with grotesque clarity. With each guttural snarl and wet, slithering noise, the grip of terror tightened around his heart like a vise, squeezing the air from his lungs in suffocating waves of panic. In a frantic bid for survival, Slava's trembling fingers fumbled for purchase within the confines of his tent, seeking out the cold, reassuring steel of a pocket knife hidden among his meager belongings. With a surge of adrenaline-fueled determination, he seized the makeshift weapon, his hands trembling with a mixture of fear and resolve. Without a moment's hesitation, Slava set to work, slashing and tearing at the fabric of the tent with frenzied desperation. Each jagged cut brought him one step closer to freedom, the rhythmic rasp of the blade against canvas drowning out the pounding of his own heart in his ears. Finally, with a final, desperate lunge, Slava burst through the tattered remains of the tent's rear wall, stumbling out into the darkness beyond. But his relief was short-lived, for even as he struggled to regain his footing, his foot caught on the gnarled roots of a nearby tree, sending him sprawling to the ground in a tangle of limbs and torn fabric. As he struggled to disentangle himself from the grasp of the earth, a chilling sensation prickled at the back of Slava's neck, a palpable aura of malevolence that seemed to seep from the very shadows themselves. With a sinking feeling of dread, he realized that he was not alone. Somewhere behind him, hidden in the inky depths of the forest, the source of his nightmares lurked, its presence heralded by the ominous hiss of bared fangs and the promise of unspeakable horror. And with that realization came the sudden, terrifying certainty that his ordeal was far from over. As Slava stumbled through the darkness, his senses reeling from the horrors he had witnessed, he stumbled upon three figures emerging from the shadows. At first glance, they appeared to be scantily clad women, their forms swaying seductively in the dim moonlight, their voices honeyed with promises of safety and solace. "Come back to us, Slava," they cooed, their voices laced with a sinister allure. "It will be all right. We'll take care of you." But even as they spoke, a wave of sickening realization washed over Slava, chilling him to the core. These were no ordinary women. They were the very creatures that had torn his friends apart before his very eyes. The same creatures that had reduced his once vibrant companions to nothing more than bloody remnants strewn across the forest floor. With horror etched into every line of his face, Slava recoiled from the sight of the deceitful apparitions, his mind struggling to comprehend the depths of their deception. How could such alluring forms harbor such unspeakable malevolence? How could such sweet promises conceal the darkness that lurked within? In that moment of clarity, Slava knew that he could trust nothing, that even the most innocent-seeming of faces could hide the most monstrous of intentions. With a shudder of revulsion, he turned his back on the sinister trio, his resolve hardened by the memory of his fallen friends and the knowledge that he alone remained to bear witness to their fate. Caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, Slava found himself teetering on the precipice between illusion and reality. As the haunting memories of the campfire flickered in his mind, he was momentarily ensnared by fleeting glimpses of happiness, his thoughts drifting back to simpler times when laughter echoed beneath the canopy of stars. But amidst the bittersweet reverie, a dangerous complacency began to take root within Slava's psyche, blurring the lines between fantasy and truth. The comforting warmth of nostalgia clouded his judgment, dulling his senses to the lurking dangers that lay concealed in the shadows. In this vulnerable state, Slava became an unwitting pawn in the sinister game of the monstrous maidens. Their deceitful allure, augmented by his wistful yearning for the familiar comforts of companionship, ensnared him in a web of illusion, casting a veil of false security over his trembling heart. With each whispered promise and honeyed entreaty, the monstrous temptresses wove their spell around Slava, exploiting his weakened resolve and clouded perceptions. Lost in a haze of misplaced trust and misplaced longing, he drifted further into their clutches, unaware of the perilous reality that lurked beneath their beguiling facade. And as the night stretched on, the boundary between illusion and reality blurred ever further, threatening to consume Slava in a maelstrom of darkness from which there would be no escape. As the monstrous maidens shed their seductive guise, revealing their grotesque visage in all its horrifying splendor, A shiver of primal terror coursed through Slava's veins. In that chilling moment of revelation, the veil of illusion was torn asunder, exposing the ghastly truth that had lurked beneath their deceptive facade. Gone were the captivating smiles and dulcet tones that had once ensnared his senses. In their place stood twisted, otherworldly creatures, their features contorted into grotesque masks of malevolence. The once alluring maidens now embodied the stuff of nightmares, their unearthly forms evoking a primal fear that struck at the very core of Slava's being. In the harsh light of reality, Slava's senses were assaulted by the grotesque sight before him, his mind recoiling in horror at the grotesque aberrations that had concealed their true nature beneath a thin veneer of illusion. The air grew heavy with the stench of decay, mingled with the sickly sweet scent of corruption, as the monstrous entities bared their fangs in a silent mockery of humanity. It was a moment of stark clarity amidst the chaos, as Slava came face to face with the harrowing truth of his predicament. Trapped in the clutches of unspeakable horror, he stood alone against the encroaching darkness, his every instinct screaming at him to flee from the abominations that now surrounded him. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with dread, Slava realized that his only hope lay in escape, as he braced himself to confront the nightmare that had unfolded before him. For in that terrifying moment of revelation, he knew that the true horror of the night had only just begun. As the true nature of the maidens unfolded before him, Slava's mind reeled in horror, realizing the gruesome fate that had befallen his friends. Panic surged through his veins like a torrential flood, overwhelming his senses as he scrambled to flee from the nightmarish tableau that had unfolded before him. Every fiber of his being screamed for escape, his heart pounding in his chest like a drumbeat of dread. With each frenzied step, he felt the suffocating grip of terror tighten around him, threatening to consume him whole. The memory of his friend's fate haunted his every thought, driving him onward in a desperate bid for survival. In the darkness of the night, Slava ran, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he sought refuge from the encroaching horror that pursued him. The forest seemed to close in around him, its twisted shadows whispering of unspeakable terrors that lurked just beyond his sight. Yet amidst the chaos and confusion, one thought burned bright in his mind: the need to escape, to flee from the nightmare that had engulfed him. And so, with every ounce of strength he possessed, Slava pressed onward, driven by the primal instinct to survive at any cost. After narrowly escaping the clutches of the monstrous beings, Slava stumbled upon the flashing lights of a police car, his heart pounding with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Rushing towards the officers, he poured out his tale of terror, recounting the harrowing events that had led to the disappearance of his friends. His words spilled forth in a torrent of fear and desperation, each syllable laden with the weight of the horrors he had witnessed. The officers listened intently, their expressions shifting from skepticism to concern as they absorbed the gravity of his story. With a sense of grim determination, Slava implored the authorities to act swiftly, to mount a rescue operation to save his friends from the clutches of the malevolent entities that stalked the night. And as the night wore on, he could only pray that help would arrive in time to thwart the darkness that threatened to consume them all. As the tale reaches its conclusion, the police make a startling discovery. A beautiful woman's face emerges from the depths of the water, hinting at the possibility of even greater danger or mystery lurking beneath the surface. The officers exchange uneasy glances, their minds racing with questions and suspicions as they contemplate the implications of this enigmatic revelation. Could there be more to this sinister saga than meets the eye? Only time will tell as they delve deeper into the darkness that shrouds this haunting locale. Amidst the backdrop of chilling events by the campfire, the characters find themselves grappling with a sense of unease, seeking solace in the comforting embrace of storytelling and shared imagination. In an effort to alleviate the tension that hangs heavy in the air, they engage in animated discussions, weaving romanticized narratives and fantastical illusions that serve as temporary distractions from the harsh reality of their circumstances. Yet, even as they lose themselves in the allure of their collective imagination, the specter of fear continues to linger, casting a shadow over their fleeting moments of respite. For in the depths of the night, reality and fantasy blur together, intertwining in a delicate dance of light and shadow that leaves them questioning the boundaries between truth and fiction, and the unsettling truths that lie hidden within the recesses of their own minds. As the car suddenly sputtered and died in the middle of the dense forest, the jovial chatter and music inside abruptly ceased. The engine was silent, and the encroaching quiet of the woods wrapped around the friends, amplifying their sense of isolation and helplessness. Roma, Christina, Olesya, and Dinas exchanged anxious glances. Night was falling fast, and the encroaching darkness was already starting to swallow the narrow dirt road they had been traveling. Dinas, who had been driving, turned the key in the ignition again, but the car remained unresponsive. "Looks like we're stuck," he muttered, frustration and fear evident in his voice. "We need to find help before it gets too dark." The group reluctantly agreed to leave the car and continue on foot. They gathered their belongings, including a flashlight, some water, and whatever snacks they had left, and started walking down the deserted path. The forest around them was eerily silent, the only sounds being the crunch of their footsteps on the gravel and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the reality of their predicament began to sink in. The tall trees loomed ominously above them, casting long shadows that seemed to move and twist in the fading light. Every snap of a twig or rustle in the underbrush made them jump, their nerves fraying with each passing minute. Despite the fear gnawing at them, the friends banded together, drawing strength from each other. Christina, sensing Olesya's growing panic, took her hand and squeezed it reassuringly. "We'll be okay," she whispered, more to convince herself than anyone else. "As long as we stick together, we'll find a way out." Roma, the most pragmatic of the group, took the lead, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. "We need to find shelter before it gets too dark to see," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Let's keep moving." Dinas, usually the jokester, put on a brave face and tried to lighten the mood. "Hey, at least we won't have to deal with any more traffic jams out here," he quipped, earning a few nervous chuckles. His attempt at humor, though feeble, helped to lift their spirits, if only slightly. As the hours dragged on and the darkness deepened, their situation became more dire. The flashlight's beam was growing weaker, and the cold night air was seeping through their thin jackets. Yet their bond grew stronger. They took turns carrying each other's bags, offered sips of water, and shared what little food they had. They huddled together for warmth and comfort, their shared ordeal forging an unbreakable bond of solidarity and mutual support. Suddenly they heard a noise, something moving through the brush. The friends froze, hearts pounding, as the sound grew closer. In the dim light, they could just make out a pair of glowing eyes staring at them from the shadows. Panic surged through them, but they stood their ground, refusing to abandon each other. "Stay calm," Roma whispered, his voice barely audible. "We'll face this together." The eyes blinked, and then, to their immense relief, a small deer emerged from the undergrowth, its eyes reflecting the flashlight's beam. They laughed nervously, the tension breaking momentarily. But the encounter was a stark reminder of the perils they faced in the dark forest. As the night wore on, the friends continued their trek, driven by the hope of finding safety and the strength of their friendship. The forest was a maze of unknown dangers, but their solidarity and determination kept them moving forward, step by step, through the oppressive darkness. As the friends trudged deeper into the forest, the eerie silence was punctuated only by their cautious footsteps. The thick canopy of trees above seemed to swallow the light, casting long, twisted shadows that played tricks on their minds. Every rustle of leaves or distant animal call made them jumpy, their nerves already frayed by the unknown dangers lurking in the darkness. Suddenly, Christina, who was walking slightly ahead, screamed and stumbled backward, nearly knocking Olesya over. "What is it?" Dinas asked, his voice taut with concern. Christina pointed a trembling finger ahead. "Look." In the beam of Roma's weakening flashlight, they saw an enormous spider web stretching between two ancient oaks, its silken threads glistening menacingly in the dim light. The web was so large it seemed almost otherworldly, a glistening trap laid out by some monstrous creature. The friends froze, their imaginations running wild with images of giant spiders waiting to pounce. "We need to go around it," Roma said, trying to keep his voice steady. But as he led them in a wide arc around the web, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something unseen was tracking their every move. Just as they thought they were clear of the web, Dinas brushed against a low-hanging strand, and a shiver of panic shot through the group. They imagined countless hairy legs scuttling towards them, ready to ensnare them in the sticky silk. But when nothing happened, they slowly began to realize that their fears were exaggerated. The forest was full of such webs, and the spiders that spun them were more afraid of the humans than the other way around. The immediate danger passed, and their panic subsided, though the experience left them shaken and wary of what other unexpected hazards lay ahead. As the night grew colder, and the path ahead more uncertain, the friends knew they had to find shelter and resources to survive until morning. The idea of spending the entire night walking aimlessly through the forest was daunting, and they needed to prepare for the worst. "Let's find some wood and make a fire," suggested Olesya, trying to be practical. "We need warmth, and a fire might keep some of the animals away." They spread out, staying within sight of each other, and began gathering fallen branches and dry leaves. Denis used his pocket knife to cut some of the thicker branches into manageable pieces, while Roma and Christina gathered kindling and smaller sticks. The process was nerve-wracking. Every snap of a twig or crunch of leaves underfoot made them jump, their eyes darting around for any sign of movement. The forest seemed to close in on them, the shadows deepening as the last traces of twilight faded. After what felt like hours, they had a small pile of wood and kindling. Roma used a lighter he had in his backpack to ignite the kindling, and soon they had a small, crackling fire. The warm glow provided a comforting contrast to the oppressive darkness surrounding them, and the dancing flames cast flickering shadows on the trees, making the forest seem a little less menacing. Next, they needed shelter. Christina spotted a small overhang formed by a fallen tree and some rocks, which provided a natural windbreak. They cleared away the debris and made a makeshift camp, using their backpacks as pillows and laying out spare clothes and blankets for warmth. As they sat around the fire, the reality of their situation set in. They were alone in the middle of an unfamiliar forest, with no way to contact the outside world. But in that moment, they found solace in each other's company. They shared stories and memories, trying to keep their spirits up despite the fear gnawing at their minds. The fire crackled and popped, the only sound in the still night. The friends took turns keeping watch, their eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of danger. The flickering light of the fire revealed nothing but trees and shadows, and the occasional scurrying of small forest creatures. Despite the fear and uncertainty, they felt a glimmer of hope. They had survived the day, and they had each other. Together they would face whatever dangers the forest had in store, drawing strength from their unbreakable bond of friendship. The night pressed in around them, each rustle of leaves or crack of a twig sending a jolt of fear through the group. The fire's flickering light cast long, eerie shadows that seemed to dance and shift, heightening their sense of unease. Every noise felt like a potential threat, every shadow a lurking danger. The friends huddled closer together, their eyes scanning the darkness beyond the firelight. Denis, always the practical one, suggested they arm themselves with whatever they could find. "We need to be ready for anything," he said, his voice tense. He picked up a sturdy branch, snapping off the smaller twigs to fashion a makeshift club. Roma followed suit, using his pocket knife to sharpen a long stick into a crude spear. Christina and Olesya searched through their backpacks, finding a small can of pepper spray and a heavy flashlight that could double as a blunt weapon. They distributed the makeshift weapons, each friend gripping their newfound tool tightly, the weight of it providing a small measure of comfort. "We take turns keeping watch," Roma said, trying to project confidence. "Two of us awake at all times. We can't afford to be caught off guard." The group nodded in agreement, their faces set with grim determination. They knew that vigilance was their best defense against the unknown threats lurking in the forest. The fire crackled, casting an orange glow on their anxious faces as they settled into a tense routine of rotating watch shifts, their senses heightened and their hearts pounding with every unexpected sound. As dawn broke, the forest around them slowly came to life with the chirping of birds and the rustling of small animals. The soft light of morning offered a brief respite from the oppressive darkness of the night. Roma volunteered to scout ahead, to explore the area for any signs of danger or potential help. He knew the importance of gathering information, of understanding the terrain and the threats they faced. "I'll be careful," he assured the group, gripping his sharpened stick. "Stay close to the fire and keep an eye out. I'll be back soon." With that, he ventured into the forest, moving cautiously through the underbrush. Each step was deliberate, every sound analyzed. He kept his senses alert, eyes scanning the ground for tracks, ears tuned to the subtle noises that could signal danger. The forest felt different in the daylight, but the sense of threat lingered, a constant reminder of their precarious situation. As he moved deeper into the woods, Roma spotted signs of life, a faint trail leading to a nearby stream, broken branches suggesting recent movement. He followed the trail, his heart racing with a mix of hope and fear. The possibility of finding help or encountering danger loomed large in his mind. He paused frequently, listening for any unusual sounds. The forest was alive with the normal sounds of nature, but Roma couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He pressed on, determined to gather as much information as possible. He found the stream, its clear water a welcome sight. He knelt down, taking a moment to drink and refill his water bottle. As he straightened up, he noticed something that made his blood run cold: footprints in the mud, too large to be any of his friends. They were fresh, leading away from the stream and deeper into the forest. The realization that they were not alone hit him hard. He needed to get back to the group and warn them. With renewed urgency, Roma retraced his steps, moving swiftly but cautiously. His mind raced with possibilities: who or what had made those tracks? Were they friend or foe? As he neared the camp, he slowed down, taking extra care to avoid making noise. The sight of the fire and his friends brought a wave of relief. Their fresh footprints near the stream, Roma reported breathlessly. "We're not alone out here. We need to stay alert and be ready for anything." The gravity of his words sank in, and the group tightened their defensive perimeter, their resolve hardening. The forest, once a place of potential adventure, had become a landscape of lurking dangers and unseen threats. But together, armed with newfound knowledge and a determination to protect each other, they steeled themselves for whatever lay ahead, ready to face the unknown with a mix of fear and courage. Despite the lingering fear and the constant sense of danger, the friends refused to succumb to despair. They knew that maintaining a positive outlook was crucial to their survival. As they gathered around the fire, the warmth and light offering a small sanctuary against the encroaching darkness, they shared stories and memories from happier times. These moments of camaraderie and laughter provided a brief escape from their dire circumstances. "We're going to make it through this," Christina said, her voice firm and resolute. "We've been through tough times before, and we've always come out stronger." Olesya nodded, adding, "We just need to stick together and stay positive. If we keep moving and keep our wits about us, we'll find a way out of this forest." Denise, who had been silently tending the fire, finally spoke up. "And we have each other. As long as we're together, we can face anything." The friends drew strength from each other's words, a renewed sense of hope washing over them. They knew that their situation was grim, but they also knew that their bond was unbreakable. This shared optimism became a lifeline, pulling them back from the brink of despair and giving them the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the friends settled in for another night in the forest, the flickering fire casting long shadows around their makeshift camp, an eerie silence enveloped them. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by a rustling noise from the darkness. The group tensed, each of them gripping their makeshift weapons tightly, eyes darting toward the source of the sound. Emerging from the shadows was a figure, stumbling and barely able to stand. As she came into the light, they saw that it was a woman, her clothes tattered and her face gaunt with exhaustion. She looked like she had been through hell, her eyes wide with fear and desperation. "Oh my God," Olesya whispered, rushing to the woman's side. "Are you okay? What happened?" The woman collapsed near the fire, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Dennis quickly offered her some water, which she drank greedily. "Help, please," she managed to croak, her voice weak and trembling. "I've been lost. For days. My husband, he's missing." Christina knelt beside the woman, gently checking her for injuries. "You're safe now," she said soothingly. "We'll help you. Just tell us what happened." As the woman began to recount her harrowing ordeal, the friends listened intently, their hearts heavy with a mix of shock and sympathy. She and her husband had ventured into the forest for a camping trip, but they had gotten separated. She had heard his screams in the night, but had been too terrified to investigate. Days of wandering aimlessly had left her weak and disoriented until she had finally stumbled upon their camp. "We have to find him," Roma said, his expression determined. "He could still be out there, needing our help." Dinis nodded in agreement. "We can't leave anyone behind. But first, we need to make sure you're okay." They worked quickly, offering the woman food and wrapping her in a blanket to ward off the chill. The friends took turns keeping watch, their senses heightened and their resolve strengthened by this new addition to their group. The woman's presence, though a stark reminder of the dangers they faced, also reinforced their commitment to helping one another. As the night wore on, the woman slowly regained some strength, her gratitude evident in her tired eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, tears of relief mingling with the dirt on her cheeks. I thought I was going to die out there." Christina squeezed her hand reassuringly. "You're safe with us now. We'll find your husband, and we'll get through this together." The friends knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with peril, but they also knew that they had each other to rely on. Their shared hope and determination would be their guiding light through the darkness, pushing them forward toward safety and survival. As the fire crackled and the shadows danced ominously around the camp, the woman, now somewhat more composed, began to recount the terrifying tale of her husband's disappearance. The friends listened intently, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. "We had been camping, just a peaceful getaway," she began, her voice shaking slightly. But on the second night, something changed. There was an eerie silence, like the forest itself was holding its breath. "My husband, Alexei, decided to explore a bit further from our campsite. He said he heard something unusual, like a low, guttural noise coming from the ground." She paused, her eyes distant, as if reliving the moment. "I waited for him to return, but he didn't. I called out his name, but there was no answer. Then I heard his voice, faint and desperate, coming from a small clearing nearby. When I got there, I found an earth-covered pit, almost hidden among the roots and fallen leaves. His voice was coming from inside, but I couldn't see him. It was like he was trapped below the surface." She shuddered, hugging herself as if to fend off the memory. "I tried to reach him, to dig through the dirt, but it was no use. It was like the earth had swallowed him whole. And then, silence. I've been searching ever since, but I found no trace of him." The friends exchanged uneasy glances, the implications of her story weighing heavily on them. The forest, already a place of fear and uncertainty, now seemed even more sinister. Understanding the urgency of the situation, the friends quickly turned their attention to the woman's immediate needs. She was clearly in bad shape, and they knew they had to act fast to help her recover. Christina took the lead, her medical training kicking in. "We need to clean her wounds and get some food and water into her system. She's dehydrated and exhausted." Dinis nodded and started boiling some water over the fire, while Olesya rummaged through their supplies for a first aid kit. Roma kept watch, his eyes scanning the dark forest for any signs of movement. "Let's start with your hands," Christina said gently, taking the woman's trembling hands into her own. The skin was raw and blistered from digging in the dirt. She carefully cleaned the wounds, wincing at the woman's sharp intake of breath. "What's your name?" Christina asked, hoping to distract her from the pain. "Anya," the woman replied weakly. "Thank you for helping me." "We're here to help each other," Anya, Christina said with a reassuring smile. "We're going to get through this." Olesya handed Christina some antiseptic and bandages, and they worked together to clean and dress Anya's wounds. Dinis brought over a cup of warm water, which Anya drank gratefully, her hands shaking. "Here, eat this," Olesya said, offering her a granola bar. "It's not much, but it'll help." Anya took small bites, her strength slowly returning. "I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't found you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're safe with us now," Dinis said, his tone firm and reassuring. "We'll find a way to help Alexei too." As the night wore on, they continued to care for Anya, their spirits bolstered by the sense of purpose and unity. Despite the fear and the darkness, they found strength in their shared goal to survive and to uncover the mysteries that haunted the forest. With Anya's immediate needs attended to, the friends huddled closer around the fire, discussing their next steps in hushed tones. The forest around them remained ominously silent, but they knew that they couldn't let fear paralyze them. They had to stay vigilant, to keep moving forward, and to face whatever horrors the night might bring. The campfire's soft glow cast eerie shadows that flickered and danced around the group, adding to the atmosphere of tense anticipation. The dense, dark forest surrounding them seemed to close in, its silence broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant call of a nocturnal creature. The uncertainty of Alexei's fate hung heavily in the air, a palpable weight that pressed down on them all. Every snap of a twig or rustle of leaves sent waves of anxiety through the group. They couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something unseen lurked just beyond the firelight. The forest, with its impenetrable darkness and oppressive silence, seemed to breathe with malevolent intent, its secrets hidden behind the thick undergrowth and towering trees. "We need to stay alert," Dinas whispered, his voice barely audible over the crackling fire. "We don't know what's out there, and we can't let our guard down." Christina nodded, her eyes scanning the surrounding darkness. "We should take turns keeping watch. We can't afford to be caught off guard." As they settled into a rotation, the tension among them was almost unbearable. Each creak of the forest, each unexpected sound, amplified their fear. The unknown loomed large, and their imaginations ran wild with what horrors might be waiting in the shadows. Despite the fear and uncertainty, the group rallied around Anya, their empathy and solidarity forming a protective barrier against the encroaching darkness. They were determined to help her, to uncover the mystery of her husband's disappearance, and to survive whatever dangers the forest might hold. Olesia, who had always been the compassionate one, sat close to Anya, offering her warmth and reassurance. "We're in this together," she said softly, squeezing Anya's hand. "We won't leave you alone." Anya's eyes, filled with gratitude and lingering fear, met Olesia's. "I don't know how to thank you," she murmured. "I was so scared. I thought I'd never find anyone." "We're stronger together," Roma added, his voice firm with conviction. "Whatever is out there, we'll face it as a team." Their solidarity was a beacon of hope in the oppressive darkness. They shared their fears and hopes, drawing strength from each other. Denise and Christina took turns tending to the fire and keeping watch, their vigilance a silent promise to protect the group. As the night wore on, their empathy for Anya deepened. They listened to her recount the harrowing details of her ordeal, their hearts aching for her loss and fear. The bonds of friendship and shared humanity were strengthened in those dark hours, knitting them together in a web of support and mutual determination. Christina, ever the practical one, began to formulate a plan. "We need to find that pit Anya mentioned," she said, her eyes hard with resolve. "It might hold clues to what happened to Alexei." "But we need to be careful," Dinas cautioned. "Whatever took Alexei could still be out there." The group agreed, their resolve steeling them against the terror that clung to the forest. They would venture into the unknown, armed with their solidarity and their hope. Together, they would face the horrors of the night, determined to uncover the truth and protect each other from whatever dangers lay ahead. In the silence of the forest, with the fire's embers glowing softly, they felt a glimmer of hope. It was fragile, but it was enough to keep them moving forward, united in their quest to survive and to help Anya find her husband. As the first light of dawn began to pierce the canopy, casting long shadows across their camp, the group gathered around the fire, their eyes fixed on Anya. The night's terrors still clung to them, but the promise of answers kept them focused. Anya, now slightly calmer and more composed, began to reveal the harrowing details of her ordeal. "It started a few days ago," she began, her voice trembling. "Alexei and I were hiking through the forest, following an old trail we found on a map. Everything seemed normal until we reached a clearing with a large, ancient oak tree. Alexei was drawn to it, almost as if something was calling him." The group listened intently, their expressions a mix of curiosity and fear. Anya's words painted a vivid picture of the eerie scene, the ancient tree standing like a sentinel in the heart of the forest. "That night, we set up camp near the tree. I woke up to the sound of Alexei's voice, but he wasn't in the tent. I found him standing near a pit, staring into the darkness below. He was entranced, as if in a trance. I tried to pull him away, but he wouldn't budge. Then he disappeared into the pit, and I heard his screams echoing through the night. Tears welled up in Anya's eyes as she relived the nightmare. I tried to follow him, but the pit was deep and treacherous. I called for him, but all I heard were his distant cries for help. Then there was silence. I searched for hours, but I found nothing. I was alone, terrified, and lost. The group's hearts ached for Anya, and a deep sense of dread settled over them. The mystery of the pit and Alexei's disappearance was a dark puzzle that needed solving, but it also filled them with a foreboding sense of danger. As Anya finished her story, the group knew what they had to do. The forest held dark secrets, and it was clear that Alexei's fate was tied to whatever lurked within the pit. Dennis stood up, his face set with determination. "We have to find that pit and figure out what happened to Alexei," he declared. "We can't leave Anya without answers, and we can't let whatever took Alexei continue to threaten us." Christina nodded in agreement, her eyes scanning the faces of her friends. "This isn't just about Alexei anymore. We need to understand what we're dealing with if we're going to survive this forest." Anya looked at them with a mixture of gratitude and fear. "I don't want to put you in danger, but I can't do this alone. I need your help." Olesya stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on Anya's shoulder. "You're not alone anymore. We're in this together, and we'll find the truth." With their mission clear, the group began to prepare for the journey to the pit. They gathered supplies, checked their makeshift weapons, and steeled themselves for the dangers ahead. The forest, with its ancient trees and shadowy depths, seemed to watch them with silent, malevolent interest. As they set off, the sun's light barely penetrated the dense foliage, casting everything in a dim, eerie glow. Every step they took was cautious, every rustle of leaves a potential threat. The path to the pit was fraught with unseen dangers, and the air was thick with an oppressive sense of dread. Their journey was a perilous one, filled with the unknown and the terrifying. Yet, despite the fear that gnawed at them, they were united by a common purpose. The need to uncover the truth about Alexei's disappearance and the dark secrets of the forest drove them forward, forging a bond of solidarity and hope amidst the encroaching shadows. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the mystery, and with each passing moment, the tension grew. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees whispering ancient secrets and unseen eyes watching their every move. But the group pressed on, determined to confront the darkness and uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Anya's voice quivered as she recounted the chilling events that had unfolded in the depths of the forest. It came out of nowhere she began, her eyes darting nervously around the campfire. "I was walking alone, trying to find any sign of Alexei, when I felt something watching me." The memory sent shivers down her spine, and the group leaned in closer, captivated by her tale. The forest seemed to hold its breath as Anya spoke, as if even the trees were listening intently. "Suddenly, it was upon me," Anya continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "A shadowy figure, moving with unnatural speed and grace. I tried to run, but it was too fast. It struck me, a blow to the head, and everything went dark." The group exchanged uneasy glances, the forest around them suddenly feeling much more hostile and foreboding. Whatever lurked in the shadows was a threat they couldn't ignore. When Anya regained consciousness, she found herself lying at the bottom of a deep pit, the earth cold and damp beneath her. Disoriented and afraid, she struggled to make sense of her surroundings until her eyes fell upon a chilling sight. "There was a message," Anya whispered, her voice trembling with fear. "Scrawled on the walls of the pit in blood. It said ... IT said they were coming for us. All of us." The group recoiled in horror, the weight of those words sinking in like a stone in their stomachs. The forest seemed to close in around them, the darkness pressing in from all sides. "And then ... I saw him," Anya continued, her voice barely a whisper now. "Alexei, he was there, but he wasn't ... He wasn't himself. His eyes ... They were empty, soulless. He spoke of horrors beyond imagining, of things lurking in the darkness, waiting to devour us all." The campfire crackled softly, casting flickering shadows across their faces as they listened in stunned silence. The pit held secrets darker than they could have ever imagined, and the truth of what lay within its depths filled them with a bone-deep dread. As they huddled together, the forest seemed to echo with the whispers of unseen horrors, and the group knew that their journey was far from over. The mystery of the pit and the fate of Alexei loomed over them like a specter, driving them ever deeper into the heart of darkness. With the keys to the minibus clutched tightly in their hands, the group made a unanimous decision: they had to find medical help for Anya, and they had to find it fast. Each step they took felt heavy with the weight of uncertainty, the forest looming around them like a silent sentinel. Anya's condition was worsening by the minute, her breathing shallow and ragged as they navigated the dense undergrowth. Every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs sent a jolt of fear coursing through their veins, their nerves stretched taut with the anticipation of what they might encounter next. As they reached the minibus, the group exchanged tense glances, a silent agreement passing between them. They knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but they also knew that they couldn't afford to wait any longer. Anya's life hung in the balance, and they were her only hope. As they climbed into the minibus, ready to race against time in search of medical aid, their eyes fell upon a small, weathered map tucked into the glove compartment. It was a discovery that would change the course of their journey in ways they couldn't have foreseen. "Look," Olga exclaimed, her voice trembling with excitement and apprehension. "It's a map of the surrounding area. Maybe we can find help in the nearest village." The group exchanged uncertain glances, torn between their original plan to head for the city and the newfound possibility of finding assistance closer to home. In the end, the allure of a nearby village proved too strong to resist, and they set off down the winding forest road, their hearts pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. With each passing mile, the forest seemed to grow darker, the shadows stretching out like fingers to grasp at their sanity. But they pressed on, driven by the desperate need to save Anya and uncover the truth behind the horrors that lurked in the heart of the woods. Little did they know, their detour would lead them into the very heart of darkness itself, where secrets long buried would rise to meet them, and the true nature of their ordeal would be revealed in all its terrifying splendor. The air inside the minibus hung heavy with tension as the group huddled together, their nerves frayed from the relentless assault of the unknown. Suddenly, without warning, chaos erupted as a horde of spiders descended upon them with lethal intent. Anya's screams pierced the air as the spiders swarmed over her, their venomous fangs sinking deep into her flesh. Panic-stricken, the group scrambled to her aid, swatting furiously at the arachnid assailants in a desperate attempt to fend them off. But the spiders were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless as they poured forth from the darkness of the forest like a tide of death. With horror etched upon their faces, Roma, Christina, and Olesya knew that they had only one choice: to flee for their lives and leave Dinas and the hapless woman behind. In a frenzy of fear and desperation, Roma, Christina, and Olesya tore themselves away from the nightmarish scene unfolding before them, their hearts pounding in their chests as they raced through the forest in search of safety. Behind them, the sounds of screams and scuttling legs echoed through the darkness, a haunting reminder of the horrors they had left behind. As they ran, branches lashed out like accusing fingers, the undergrowth clawing at their clothes and tearing at their skin. Each step felt like an eternity, the forest closing in around them with every passing moment, threatening to swallow them whole. But still they ran, driven forward by the primal instinct to survive at any cost. They knew that they could not afford to stop, not even for a moment, lest the spiders catch up to them and drag them down into the depths of hell itself. And so they ran, their breath coming in ragged gasps, their eyes wide with terror as they plunged deeper into the heart of darkness, praying for a miracle to guide them through the night. In the suffocating darkness of the burrow, Roma found himself ensnared by the earth's icy embrace, his limbs pinned down by unseen forces, as if held captive by the very shadows themselves. With each passing moment, the weight of his predicament pressed down upon him like a suffocating blanket, threatening to crush him beneath its unforgiving embrace. But it was not just the physical confinement that tormented him, it was the knowledge that he was utterly alone, cut off from the outside world with no hope of escape. The walls of the burrow seemed to close in around him, their jagged edges scraping against his skin like the gnashing teeth of some unseen predator, ready to devour him whole. In the dim light of the burrow, every sound became magnified, every shadow taking on a sinister life of its own. Each creak of the earth and rustle of the undergrowth sent shivers down Roma's spine, his senses heightened to the point of agony as he strained to discern friend from foe in the gloom. Outside the burrow, the air was thick with the oppressive weight of the unknown, the very forest itself seeming to pulse with a malevolent energy that threatened to consume them all. With every step they took, the tension mounted, their nerves stretched to the breaking point as they braced themselves for whatever horrors lay in wait just beyond the darkness. And yet, despite the palpable sense of fear that hung heavy in the air, there was a steely determination in their eyes, a fierce resolve to stand firm in the face of adversity and emerge victorious against all odds. For they knew that in the heart of darkness, it was not strength or skill that would see them through, but the unbreakable bonds of friendship and the indomitable spirit of the human soul. As the events unfolded in the heart of the forest, a palpable sense of dread hung heavy in the air, its suffocating grip tightening around the hearts and minds of our heroes. With each passing moment, their once stalwart resolve began to waver, replaced by a gnawing sense of unease that threatened to consume them from within. In the dim light of the burrow, their breaths came in ragged gasps, the stale air choking their lungs as they grappled with the harrowing reality of their situation. Hysterical laughter echoed off the walls, punctuated by desperate cries for help that fell upon deaf ears, lost in the vast expanse of the unforgiving wilderness. But it was not just the encroaching darkness that haunted our heroes, it was the sudden, merciless onslaught of the black spiders that sent them spiraling into a maelstrom of panic and despair. With their venomous fangs bared and their 8 legs poised to strike, the spiders descended upon them like avenging angels of death, their very presence casting a pall of terror over the beleaguered group. In the chaos that ensued, limbs thrashed wildly, voices cried out in agony, and blood mingled with the earth as the spiders closed in for the kill. With every bite came a searing pain that tore through flesh and bone, leaving behind a trail of devastation in its wake. And as the last echoes of their screams faded into the night, our heroes found themselves facing a grim reality in the heart of darkness. There was no mercy, no escape, only the relentless march of death itself. Amidst the palpable tension and looming sense of dread, a brief respite from the encroaching darkness emerged in the form of a playful prank involving rubber spiders. It was a moment of levity amidst the chaos, a fleeting glimpse of normalcy that offered a brief reprieve from the unrelenting horrors that surrounded our beleaguered heroes. As nervous laughter echoed through the dense undergrowth, the rubber spiders danced in the flickering firelight, their exaggerated movements casting eerie shadows upon the faces of the unsuspecting victims. For a brief moment, the weight of their fears was lifted, replaced by the simple joy of shared laughter and camaraderie. Yet, even as they indulged in this brief moment of levity, the specter of their grim reality loomed large on the horizon, a stark reminder that their respite was but a fleeting illusion in the face of the horrors that awaited them. In the quiet moments between the chaos and carnage, our characters found themselves drawn back into the labyrinth of their memories, their thoughts wandering through the tangled web of their innermost fears and desires. It was here, amidst the shifting shadows of their past, that the true complexity of their relationships began to unfurl, revealing a tapestry woven with threads of longing, betrayal, and unspoken truths. As they grappled with the harsh realities of their situation, their bonds were tested in ways they could never have imagined, forcing them to confront the demons that lurked within their own hearts. And yet, amidst the darkness, there flickered a glimmer of hope, a fragile ember of humanity that refused to be extinguished, no matter how fierce the winds of adversity blew. For it was in their shared struggles and silent sacrifices that they found solace, drawing strength from the unbreakable ties that bound them together, even in the face of insurmountable odds. And as they pressed forward into the unknown, they did so not as individuals, but as a united front, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them on the other side. Amidst the encroaching darkness and the palpable sense of dread that hung heavy in the air, there existed another layer of complexity, a tapestry woven with threads of familial trauma and profound loss. Each character bore the weight of their own personal demons, scars etched deep into their souls by the cruel hand of fate. As they navigated the treacherous terrain of the unknown, their shared experiences unearthed long-buried memories and unresolved conflicts, casting a haunting shadow over their journey. For some, the specter of loss loomed large, a constant reminder of the gaping void left behind by loved ones torn from their grasp. For others, the wounds of the past festered just beneath the surface, festering in the darkness, waiting to be acknowledged. And yet, amidst the pain and heartache, there existed a glimmer of hope, a flickering ember of resilience that refused to be extinguished. Through their shared struggles and silent sacrifices, they forged bonds stronger than steel, finding solace in the unwavering support of those who stood by their side, ready to weather the storm together. As the tendrils of darkness crept ever closer, our characters found themselves ensnared in a web of uncertainty and fear, their once solid reality unraveling before their very eyes. Strange and inexplicable threats lurked around every corner, casting doubt upon the fabric of their existence and awakening within them a primal fear of the unknown. Each twist and turn of their harrowing journey brought them face to face with the incomprehensible, a world where the laws of nature no longer held sway, and the boundaries between reality and nightmare blurred beyond recognition. Shadows danced upon the walls, whispering secrets too terrible to contemplate, while unseen forces tugged at the frayed edges of their sanity, threatening to pull them into the abyss. And yet, amidst the chaos and confusion, they clung to each other, drawing strength from the tenuous bonds that bound them together. For in the face of overwhelming darkness, it was their shared resolve that served as a beacon of light, guiding them through the darkest of nights and towards the faint promise of dawn. As our characters ventured deeper into the heart of darkness, they found themselves ensconced within an environment both eerie and foreboding. Abandoned structures loomed like silent sentinels, their weathered facades bearing witness to untold secrets whispered upon the winds. The air hung heavy with the oppressive weight of a malevolent presence, shrouded in the murky veil of swampy mist that clung to the earth like a specter of doom. Each step forward was met with a sense of trepidation, as though the very ground beneath their feet conspired to swallow them whole. Shadows danced and flickered in the corners of their vision, their movements elusive and sinister, while the distant echoes of unknown creatures stirred unease in their hearts. It was a landscape both familiar and alien, where the boundaries between reality and nightmare blurred into obscurity, leaving them adrift in a realm of uncertainty and fear. The journey of our heroes unfolded against a backdrop of unsettling occurrences, each more unnerving than the last, as if the very fabric of reality had been torn asunder. Along the desolate road, they encountered scenes of inexplicable chaos, a trail of destruction wrought upon the land by forces beyond comprehension. Broken fences lay twisted and mangled, their shattered remnants bearing silent witness to unseen horrors that prowled in the darkness. Abandoned wagons lay strewn haphazardly across the path, their splintered frames a testament to the violence that had torn through the tranquil countryside. It was as though the very earth itself recoiled in terror at the encroaching darkness, its once familiar features warped and twisted into grotesque caricatures of their former selves. And yet, amidst the chaos and confusion, our heroes pressed on, their resolve unbroken, even as the world around them descended further into madness. For in the face of overwhelming adversity, it was their unwavering determination that served as a beacon of hope, guiding them ever forward through the maelstrom of fear and uncertainty. The characters found themselves plunged into a harrowing ordeal as they grappled with the stark reality of their isolation. Stranded in a desolate landscape, they soon discovered that the comforting embrace of modern technology had abandoned them. With each futile attempt to establish a connection, fingers frantically tapping at lifeless screens, ears straining for the familiar ring of a phone, their sense of isolation deepened. The absence of cellular signals and the deafening silence of unanswered calls cast a suffocating shroud of helplessness over them, leaving them adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Emotions ran raw as the characters navigated the treacherous terrain of the unknown, their nerves stretched taut with the constant threat of unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. With every creak of a branch and rustle of leaves, their hearts quickened with dread, each pulse a drumbeat of terror echoing through the depths of their souls. Fear and panic gripped them in a vice-like embrace, their minds besieged by nightmarish visions of what horrors awaited them just beyond the veil of darkness. Yet, even as they trembled in the grip of their own terror, a glimmer of defiant courage flickered within them, driving them forward in spite of their paralyzing fear. A sudden intrusion shattered the fragile semblance of normalcy that had enveloped them, plunging them headlong into a maelstrom of chaos and uncertainty. In the dim confines of their vehicle, a solitary figure materialized, a harbinger of dread, its leathery wings unfurling with a sickening rustle. The appearance of the bat heralded a pivotal moment, its presence a stark reminder of the ever-present threat that lurked just beyond the safety of their sanctuary. As tension mounted and nerves frayed, the characters found themselves thrust into a deadly game of cat and mouse, their fates inexorably intertwined with the dark forces that stalked them in the night. As the night wore on, the protagonists found themselves thrust into the heart of an enigmatic and foreboding village. Desperation gnawed at their hearts as they sought refuge from the encroaching darkness and the myriad dangers that lurked within its shadowy confines. Every shadow seemed to whisper of untold perils, and every rustle of leaves carried with it the faint echo of malevolent intent. With each step, their apprehension grew, their minds awash with uncertainty as they scoured the eerie streets in search of sanctuary. Yet, amid the palpable tension and pervasive sense of unease, a glimmer of hope flickered in the distance, a faint beacon guiding them towards the promise of safety and respite. Beneath the veil of night, the air hung heavy with an aura of otherworldly mystique, suffused with whispers of long-forgotten secrets and ancient mysteries. Strange and inexplicable phenomena danced on the fringes of perception, teasing the edges of reality with their tantalizing ambiguity. From the depths of the earth, eerie echoes reverberated, a haunting symphony of unseen forces at play. Traces of blood stained the earth, their meaning obscured by the cloak of darkness that enveloped them. In the silence of the night, the very fabric of reality seemed to warp and bend, casting doubt upon the nature of their surroundings and the truth of their existence. A sense of profound dislocation washed over the characters as they found themselves ensnared within the labyrinthine embrace of an ethereal realm. Here, reality itself seemed to unravel at the seams, giving way to a surreal landscape of shifting shadows and whispered secrets. The night sky loomed overhead like a yawning abyss, its inky depths swallowing the stars whole and leaving naught but an oppressive void in their wake. Trees stood sentinel in silent vigil, their gnarled branches reaching out like grasping fingers into the Stygian gloom. With each passing moment, the boundaries between worlds blurred, blurring the lines between dreams and reality until the very fabric of their existence hung in the balance. Within the eerie stillness of the night, a suffocating silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant hoot of an owl. Not a soul stirred in the desolate streets, and the oppressive quietude served only to amplify the sense of dread and foreboding that gripped the protagonists' hearts. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been rent asunder, leaving behind a world shrouded in mystery and cloaked in darkness, a realm where the boundaries between truth and illusion blurred and the unknown lurked in every shadow. In the face of such palpable isolation, the characters found themselves teetering on the precipice of despair, their sense of helplessness deepening with each passing moment. As they navigated the labyrinthine streets of the enigmatic village, the protagonists found themselves plagued by a gnawing fear born of uncertainty and confusion. Strange and otherworldly phenomena assailed their senses at every turn, leaving them reeling in disbelief and trepidation. The encounter with the inscrutable denizens of the town only served to deepen their sense of unease, their enigmatic whispers and furtive glances hinting at secrets too terrible to comprehend. With each step into the unknown, the characters found themselves haunted by the specter of the unfamiliar, their minds awash with questions for which there seemed to be no answers. As the night wore on, the situation grew increasingly dire for the beleaguered protagonists. The failure of the car to start, coupled with the sudden and inexplicable attack by a grotesque creature, plunged them into a state of abject helplessness and panic. Frantic shouts filled the air as they scrambled to defend themselves against the onslaught, their hearts pounding with terror at the realization that they were utterly at the mercy of forces beyond their comprehension. In the face of such overwhelming odds, the characters found themselves teetering on the brink of despair, their minds consumed by the stark realization of their own mortality. In the dim light of the moon, the ghastly creature emerged from the shadows, its unnaturally orange eyes gleaming with a sinister intensity. Its skin, a sickly shade of pallor, seemed to glisten with a thin film of sweat, giving it an otherworldly appearance. Razor-sharp teeth protruded from its twisted maw, each one a jagged testament to its predatory nature. As it loomed closer, the stench of decay hung heavy in the air, assaulting the protagonist's senses and sending shivers down their spines. With each labored breath, the creature exuded an aura of malevolence, its very presence suffusing the surrounding darkness with an aura of dread and despair. Caught in the throes of a desperate struggle for survival, the protagonists found themselves facing a series of harrowing challenges that pushed them to their limits. With the sudden and violent attack by the deranged man and the relentless onslaught of the mysterious creature, they were forced to confront threats they had never imagined possible. Adrenaline coursing through their veins, they fought tooth and nail to fend off their assailants, their every instinct screaming at them to run, to hide, to do anything to escape the clutches of death. Yet even as they battled against the odds, they knew deep down that their fight was far from over, that, in this unforgiving wilderness, danger lurked around every corner, waiting to claim them as its next victims. In the eerie silence of the forsaken village, the protagonists found themselves surrounded by an overwhelming sense of menace that seemed to seep from every crack and crevice. The enigmatic locals, with their cryptic warnings and inscrutable stares, only served to deepen the protagonists' unease, their very presence casting a pall of suspicion over the already fraught situation. And then there was the creature, a looming specter of primal terror, whose every movement sent shivers down their spines. As it stalked through the shadows, its malevolent gaze fixed upon them, the protagonists could feel the weight of its malevolence pressing down upon them, suffocating them with fear and uncertainty. In the face of such relentless hostility, they knew that their only hope lay in confronting the darkness head-on, no matter the cost. In the dead of night, as the protagonists sought refuge in the dilapidated ruins of an abandoned house, they were suddenly beset by a cacophony of screeches and flapping wings. With a deafening roar, a swarm of bats descended upon them, their leathery wings casting eerie shadows in the moonlight as they swooped and darted with malicious intent. Caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, the protagonists found themselves plunged into a frenzied melee, their cries of alarm drowned out by the blood-curdling shrieks of their airborne assailants. Each flap of wings brought with it a fresh wave of terror as the creatures bore down upon them with unrelenting ferocity, their fangs glinting in the pale moonlight like shards of obsidian. As the frenetic battle raged on, the protagonists watched in horror as the once innocuous creatures underwent a grotesque metamorphosis before their very eyes. Their bodies contorted and twisted, elongating into grotesque caricatures of their former selves, while their once docile faces twisted into snarling masks of malevolence. No longer content to merely harass their prey from the shadows, these abominations now bore a chilling resemblance to twisted mockeries of humanity, their eyes burning with a feral intensity as they launched themselves at the protagonists with renewed savagery. It was as if some dark force had taken hold of them, transforming them into nightmarish reflections of their former selves, hell-bent on nothing short of annihilation. Trapped in the crumbling confines of the derelict house, the protagonists found themselves locked in a desperate battle for survival against the relentless onslaught of the grotesque creatures. With every passing moment, the odds seemed to stack ever higher against them, their every move thwarted by the relentless ferocity of their adversaries. Yet even in the face of overwhelming odds, they refused to yield, drawing strength from their unwavering determination to protect one another at all costs. Each blow struck and parried was a testament to their indomitable will, a defiant declaration of their refusal to be cowed by the horrors that surrounded them. And as they fought tooth and nail to fend off their attackers, they knew that their struggle was far from over, that in this twisted realm of shadows and nightmares, survival was a prize reserved only for the strongest and most resolute. In the eerie stillness of the moonlit night, the air thick with an almost palpable sense of dread, the protagonists found themselves gripped by an overwhelming tide of fear and panic. Each shadow seemed to dance with sinister intent, every rustle of the wind a harbinger of unseen horrors lurking just beyond the edge of perception. With every heartbeat, their terror mounted, threatening to consume them whole, as they grappled with the incomprehensible threat that now loomed over them like a specter of doom. Desperation clawed at their hearts, driving them to the brink of madness as they struggled to make sense of the nightmare unfolding around them. Yet amidst the chaos and confusion, one thing remained abundantly clear: they were utterly and irrevocably alone, with naught but their wits and their courage to guide them through the darkness. In a desperate bid for refuge from the encroaching horrors, the children sought solace within the confines of an abandoned trailer, its rusted frame standing as a crumbling bastion against the encroaching darkness. With trembling hands, they secured the door behind them, the reassuring click of the lock echoing like a solemn vow of protection against the terrors that lurked outside. Inside, the dim glow of a flickering lantern cast long shadows across the cramped interior, its feeble light offering a fleeting illusion of safety amidst the encroaching gloom. Yet even as they huddled together in the dwindling circle of warmth, the children could not shake the nagging feeling that they were merely delaying the inevitable, that no amount of steel and wood could shield them from the inexorable advance of the nightmare that now threatened to consume them whole. As the full weight of their predicament bore down upon her, Inga felt her heart constrict with a grief so profound it threatened to suffocate her. In the harrowing moments that followed, she watched helplessly as her parents vanished into the maw of the encroaching darkness, their cries of anguish drowned out by the cacophony of the night. With each passing second, the realization of their loss cut deeper, a gaping wound that festered with a sorrow too profound for words. And as she stood amidst the wreckage of her shattered world, Inga knew that she was irrevocably changed, that the innocence of her childhood had been torn asunder, leaving behind only the hollow echo of a grief that would haunt her for the rest of her days. As the chilling reality of their situation began to sink in, Vovka found himself descending into the depths of despair and hopelessness. The loss of their parents weighed heavily upon him, a crushing burden that threatened to extinguish the flickering flame of hope within his heart. In the cold embrace of the night, he grappled with the bitter truth that they were now adrift in a world where danger lurked around every corner, where the shadows themselves seemed to hunger for their demise. With each passing moment, the gnawing sense of futility grew stronger, casting a pall of despair over their already precarious existence. And yet, amidst the darkness that threatened to consume them whole, Vovka clung to the slender thread of hope that remained, determined to defy the odds and carve out a future free from fear and uncertainty. In a daring departure from the safety of their makeshift sanctuary, the group of friends made the bold decision to venture into the depths of the night, drawn by the enigmatic allure of Mist Lake. Against the backdrop of the moonlit sky, they embarked on a journey into the unknown, their footsteps muffled by the eerie silence that enveloped the world around them. With each passing moment, the air grew thick with anticipation, a palpable sense of anticipation building within their hearts as they drew ever closer to their destination. And as they stood on the precipice of the unknown, their senses ablaze with the promise of discovery, they knew that their lives would never be the same again. As the group of friends arrived at the shores of Mist Lake, they were greeted by a scene of ethereal beauty and haunting mystery. The still waters shimmered with an otherworldly glow, their surface obscured by a veil of swirling mist that danced upon the surface like wisps of ephemeral smoke. In the distance, the silhouette of an ancient forest loomed like a specter of bygone days, its gnarled branches reaching towards the heavens in a silent plea for redemption. And amidst it all, the faint echo of whispered secrets seemed to hang in the air, beckoning the adventurers forward into the heart of the unknown. For in the depths of Mist Lake, hidden beneath its placid surface, lay the key to unlocking the mysteries of their world, a truth so profound and so terrifying that it would shake the very foundations of their reality. The appearance of a milky mist hovering above the lake sparked a sense of wonder and curiosity among the friends, drawing them closer to its enigmatic embrace. Their eyes widened in awe as they beheld the ethereal spectacle unfolding before them, tendrils of fog curling and swirling in a mesmerizing dance upon the tranquil surface of the water. A hushed silence fell over the group as they exchanged excited whispers, each one eager to unravel the secrets hidden within the mist-veiled depths of the lake. With a shared sense of anticipation, they embarked on their quest for answers, their footsteps echoing softly against the damp earth as they ventured further into the unknown. Despite the trepidation and fear stirred by the mysterious lake, the heroes found themselves inexorably drawn towards its shimmering shores, unable to resist the allure of the unknown. Each step forward was a testament to their courage and determination, a silent defiance against the encroaching darkness that threatened to consume them whole. Though their hearts pounded with apprehension, they pressed on, fueled by a burning desire to uncover the truth hidden within the depths of Mist Lake. For in the face of uncertainty, it was their unwavering resolve that carried them forward, guiding them through the shadows that lurked at the edge of their reality. It was Max who finally unraveled the mystery shrouding the lake, revealing its true nature as a byproduct of chemical emissions from a nearby factory. As the truth unfolded before them, a heavy silence settled over the group, mingling with the acrid scent of pollution that tainted the air. Their faces contorted with a mixture of shock and disbelief as they grappled with the implications of Max's revelation, the once pristine beauty of the lake now tarnished by the scars of human greed and neglect. And yet, amidst the desolation that surrounded them, a glimmer of hope remained, a flickering flame of determination that burned brightly in their hearts, driving them to fight for a future where the sins of the past would be washed away by the cleansing waters of redemption. As they delved deeper into their exploration, the friends remained a steadfast source of support and understanding for one another, their unwavering camaraderie serving as a beacon of light amidst the encroaching darkness. Each step they took was imbued with a sense of unity, their shared determination to uncover the truth binding them together like a tightly woven thread. In moments of uncertainty and fear, they found solace in the reassuring presence of their companions, drawing strength from the unspoken bond that united them in their quest for answers. And though the shadows loomed large around them, they faced the challenges ahead with unwavering resolve, knowing that together they could overcome any obstacle that stood in their way. The journey to Mist Lake unfolded as a tapestry of romance and adventure, its allure heightened by the tantalizing promise of discovery lurking just beyond the horizon. Against the backdrop of a moonlit sky and the gentle rustle of leaves, the friends found themselves swept up in the magic of the moment, their hearts beating in time with the rhythm of the night. Yet beneath the surface of their excitement lay a palpable undercurrent of caution, a lingering awareness of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. With every whispered word and shared glance, they treaded carefully upon the fragile edge between love and peril, their passion tempered by the sobering reality of the unknown that lay ahead. Nikita's heart raced as he stumbled upon a perplexing sight upon the hood of his car, a humanoid creature, hunched over and engrossed in consuming something unseen. Its form was shrouded in darkness, its features obscured by the veil of night, yet there was an undeniable aura of otherworldliness that clung to its presence like a haunting melody. As Nikita's gaze lingered upon the enigmatic being, a shiver raced down his spine, sending a ripple of unease through his veins. What manner of creature was this, and what dark secrets did it hold within its grasp? With bated breath, Nikita braced himself for the chilling revelation that awaited him in the heart of the forest. As the enigmatic figure came into view, Nikita's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and uncertainty, his mind racing with a myriad of unsettling possibilities. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, to turn and run from the unknown terror that loomed before him. Yet, a morbid curiosity gripped him, compelling him to cautiously approach and confront the mysterious entity that stood in his path. With each hesitant step, the weight of dread hung heavy upon his shoulders, casting a pall of darkness over his senses as he braced himself for whatever horrors awaited him. Black strands of hair cascaded like a sinister veil over its gaunt, pallid form, its flesh drawn taut against protruding bones in a grotesque mockery of humanity. Clad in naught but the pallor of its own skin, the creature exuded an aura of malevolence that sent shivers coursing down Nikita's spine. Its eyes, sunken sockets devoid of light, seemed to pierce through the darkness with an intensity that bespoke of a primal hunger, a hunger for something far more sinister than mere sustenance. With each movement, its sinewy limbs contorted in unnatural angles, evoking a sense of unease that lingered in the air like a foul stench, tainting the very essence of the forest with its presence. Without warning, the creature lunged at Nikita with an unearthly ferocity, its twisted form moving with a speed and agility that defied comprehension. Panic seized him in its icy grip, rendering him momentarily paralyzed as he struggled to comprehend the magnitude of the danger that now loomed before him. Frantically, he sought to evade the creature's grasp, his mind reeling with the realization that he was utterly defenseless against its relentless onslaught. With each passing moment, the boundaries between nightmare and reality blurred into a harrowing cacophony of fear and despair, leaving Nikita to confront the chilling reality of his own mortality in the face of an unspeakable horror. As the sinister creature lunged forward with bared teeth and outstretched claws, a surge of adrenaline coursed through Maxim's veins. Without a moment's hesitation, he emerged from the safety of the tent, his hands steady as he raised his firearm with practiced precision. With a sharp crack, the gunshot pierced the stillness of the night, the sound reverberating through the forest like a harbinger of impending doom. The creature recoiled in agony, its unearthly shrieks echoing into the darkness as it retreated into the shadows, thwarted by Maxim's swift and decisive action. In that fleeting moment of respite, Irina and Nikita found themselves spared from the clutches of imminent danger, their hearts pounding with a mixture of relief and apprehension at the close encounter with the unknown. With the immediate threat momentarily subdued, Maxim wasted no time in rushing to Nikita's side, his hands moving with practiced urgency as he assessed the extent of his friend's injuries. With steady hands and a calm demeanor, he administered aid to Nikita, staunching the flow of blood and stabilizing his condition with unwavering resolve. Together, they made the decision to transport Nikita to the safety of their vehicle, where they could tend to his wounds and seek medical assistance without further delay. Amidst the darkness of the forest, their bond forged in the crucible of adversity served as a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching shadows of uncertainty. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting its golden light upon the desolate landscape, Irina and Olga found themselves faced with a difficult decision. Despite their initial resolve to brave the dangers of the forest together, the harrowing events of the night had left them shaken and vulnerable. With Nikita's life hanging in the balance and the threat of further peril looming ominously on the horizon, they knew that their only chance for survival lay in seeking help beyond the confines of their makeshift camp. With heavy hearts and a sense of grim determination, they made the gut-wrenching choice to leave Maxim behind, trusting in his strength and resilience to weather the storm while they raced against time to secure the medical aid that Nikita so desperately needed. And so, with one final glance back at the camp they had called home, they set off into the unknown, their footsteps echoing through the silent woods as they embarked on a journey fraught with danger and uncertainty. A cacophony of snapping twigs and rustling leaves shattered the eerie silence of the forest, sending shivers down the spines of the three terrified friends. With hearts racing and nerves on edge, they braced themselves for yet another onslaught of danger, their senses heightened by the looming threat that lurked in the shadows. Suddenly emerging from behind a gnarled tree trunk came their friend Olga, her face etched with fear mirroring their own. Startled by her unexpected appearance, their initial relief quickly gave way to a sense of unease as they realized that the danger had not yet passed. As the tension in the air reached a fever pitch, Maxim reacted instinctively, his finger tightening on the trigger as he aimed his weapon at the encroaching creature. With a sharp crack, the gunshot echoed through the forest, but to his dismay, the bullets found their mark not in the creature, but in the thick bark of a nearby tree. Meanwhile, Irina sprang into action, rushing to Nikita's side to offer whatever aid she could muster in the heat of the moment. Together, they formed a united front against the encroaching threat, their determination to protect one another unwavering in the face of adversity. Sensing the urgency of the situation, Maxim and Olga made the split-second decision to retreat, their hearts heavy with the weight of their fallen comrade and the knowledge that their fight for survival had only just begun. Despite their best efforts to stem the tide of blood and staunch the wounds inflicted by the relentless assault, Nikita's condition continued to deteriorate with each passing moment. His life slipping away before their very eyes, he succumbed to the darkness that threatened to consume him, leaving his friends reeling in shock and disbelief at the suddenness of his demise. In the aftermath of his tragic death, a palpable sense of sorrow and despair hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over their once hopeful spirits and plunging them into the depths of despair. With their ranks now diminished and their resolve tested to its limits, they faced an uncertain future fraught with peril and uncertainty, their journey marked by loss and the haunting specter of death that lurked in the shadows of the unknown. With the looming threat of further attacks weighing heavily on their minds, they wasted no time in making a frantic bid for safety, hastily departing from the scene of horror, leaving behind only echoes of sorrow and lingering traces of fear. Every nerve tingling with adrenaline, they drove onward into the night, their hearts pounding in unison with the rhythmic beat of the road beneath their tires, each passing mile a grim reminder of the harrowing ordeal they had narrowly escaped. In the cold light of dawn, as the first tendrils of sunlight began to pierce the murky veil of night, Irina's world came crashing down around her. With a heavy heart and trembling hands, she stumbled upon the lifeless body of Maxime, a stark reminder of the cruel fate that had befallen their group. Desperation clawing at her soul, she raised her weapon once more, her trembling finger pressing against the trigger in a futile attempt to ward off the encroaching darkness. But as the echoes of gunfire faded into the stillness of the morning air, Irina found herself alone on the deserted road, the faces of her fallen comrades haunting her every waking moment. Their laughter, their smiles, their hopes and dreams all now reduced to mere memories, drowned out by the deafening silence of their absence. And as the bitter taste of blood and loss lingered on her lips, she knew that she would carry the weight of their untimely demise with her always, a grim reminder of the horrors that lurked in the shadows of the night.